Hello, I'm Jonathan Bowman-Perks and welcome back to my favourite time of the week. And I'm very lucky to have Tracey Groves with me. And Tracey is the CEO of Intelligent Ethics and a brilliant lady who works with a whole variety of organisations, sorting out the bad guys and behaving well. Background in PwC, music at Durham, a whole variety of fascinating things, including being a Territorial Army officer in the Royal Artillery. Tracey, it's great having you on board.
Thank you very much.
And also it was Roger Steer who recommended you, who is a mutual friend of us both. We were talking earlier about inspiring teams. Any situation you've been in where you've been with a great team, because we talk about inspiring leaders, but getting a great team when it just everything comes together well. You had one story. Tell us that story of a very good team.
Yeah, it's a brilliant recollection to go through, actually, Jonathan, because it reminded me of my time that I spent in Germany. So I was a director at PwC at the time, and we were leading a remediation program to support an investigation on bribery and corruption for a global conglomerate. And we thought we would be there for 6 weeks. So we got on the aeroplane thinking that we would support and help to establish a remediation program to help the organisation respond to the US investigation that took place. We were there for 2 years.
2 years.
Flying out on a Monday morning from London or other parts of the UK over to Germany. And when we got to Germany, to the campus of the client site, there were other PwC colleagues there from France, from the US, from Switzerland, from Germany, obviously, and us here from the UK. And I took it upon myself to think, actually, if we're going to be here for the long term, what are we going to do to create a sense of belonging and purpose? Because it's not much fun being stuck in a hotel 4 nights a week, every single week, every month, effectively, for a long period of time. So what we did, and I used the team to help me create this, was set up a whole community. We had a book club, we had a running club, we went to the opera, we did loads of things. We all signed up for the Stuttgart Marathon, and it was just it didn't feel like work in that way. So yes, during the day we worked hard, but then we also played hard in a really fun, collaborative way.
Brilliant.
And I have very fond memories of that time now.
Well, that's great. We do need better teams. There's a lot of dysfunctional and toxic teams, which we can talk about in part 2. And what about inspiring leaders? Who is the character you'd pick and what qualities did he or she have?
Instinctively, when I thought about this question, Mo Mowlam came to my mind.
Yeah.
And I have never got to meet her personally, but I've read a lot about her and obviously observed her and watched her on the screen. And when I read her book, Momentum in particular, it really struck me because her personality just shines through. Yeah. And she talks about her role in the peace negotiation process and ultimately ending up with the Good Friday Agreement as she did in 1998. And her charisma was phenomenal. Her bluntness at the same time, this paradox of being able to get what she wanted, but doing it in a way which was so authentic, I find really compelling.
Yeah, she was amazing. And didn't she have cancer and had to
she
have
had a brain
wig?
tumour.
Brain tumour.
Yeah, so she would quite often walk into cabinet meetings, kick off her shoes, take off her wig, put it on the table and get down to business.
Wow.
Extremely intelligent, very determined, and never took herself too seriously, but was really good at what she did. The complexity and really the impossibility of what she was facing in Northern Ireland as Secretary of State was phenomenal.
No, amazing. And there was another politician that I got to know in some work I was doing at Windsor Castle, and she sadly has died of cancer. But what she said, which always stuck with me, she said, Jonathan, always be where you're irreplaceable. So in other words, if there's something your children are doing, which is a play, and they need mum or dad there, you've got to be there, and no one else can go in your place. And I think that's really important, and particularly as she knew she was dying. As she said, always be where you're irreplaceable. Yeah. And that's always stuck with me. So from the inspiring teams to inspiring individuals to ourselves as frail and very human people with feet of clay, that we make mistakes. What have you learned the most from when you've got it wrong in the past with certain leadership traits that you had which were not helpful? And how has that changed how you are now, Tracey?
Yeah, when I reflected on when I've got it wrong, and there are quite a few occasions I can admit to, it's actually being my ability to use my energy smartly.
That's a good one.
And with intelligence. I'm a very natural, vivacious person, as you probably can tell, Jonathan, and it's very personal to me. It's not a show, it's who I am. I'm like a blue bottle against the window, banging up, our husband says to me, Tracey, just go for a run, for goodness sake, do something. And I was very judgmental in those who didn't match my levels of energy and enthusiasm for life and for work. So therefore, if you were somebody who was more reserved, more reflective, more thinking internally rather than externally, I took that to be a flaw.
Yeah.
So it was a real learning for me to reflect and respect what it takes to be a good leader, where not everyone is like you, and there is a absolute value. Thank goodness everybody is not like me, because the world would be a very loud, noisy place, and actually we probably would get nothing done because we'd be so busy bouncing off each other and gaining our energy in that way. So for me, it was learning to dial it down in the moment, when knowing actually it would be undermining my ability to influence and to lead.
And you bring out a very good point, because inspiring leaders come in many shapes and sizes, and funny enough, a lot of them are introverts and need their reflective time and their quiet moments, and then they put on the brave face, the armor. They go out and they perhaps speak when they're in fact their toes are scrawling up inside their shoes and they're feeling very nervous. And it is interesting talking to people, whether it be even Ant Middleton, the fear he had when he was going in to take out terrorists in Afghanistan and things, that the fear he had inside him that you wouldn't know with people. So I think I do relate to what you're saying, is that in my drive to try and be a better leader, I think I've often been judgmental about others. And I think two things I take from both the Stoics and the sort of Buddhist approach is this one about non-attachment and non-judgment. Non-attachment to things and possessions and being seen as a person or an identity. I am this person, this role. But the other one of non-judgment. And it's always work in progress, isn't it? Do you find?
It always, and I actually, just to go back to your point around some of the beliefs and systems here, I actually go back to the saying of the Zen master, which is actually a beginner's mindset is full of possibilities.
Yes.
Whereas an expert's leader's mindset has very few.
Yeah.
And actually, for me, to free myself from the default position, which I often find through my own sheer force of personality, means that actually it's possible to achieve anything and everything with anyone. And to hold back that judgment. But I love this beginner's mindset. And actually, I think leadership today is actually about unlearning quite a lot of stuff.
You are spot on. And time and again, we were talking earlier about Nick Borwell's comment from the civil service that the incomplete leader with the complete team. And that we are always work in progress. And beginner's mind. And what is it we need to unlearn before we can relearn? So finally, what would be your favourite top tip for leaders who are listening?
My favourite top tips, I've got a lot, but my absolute top one is one that my father brought me up on, and it runs through my veins, and I hear myself saying it all the time, which is there is no such word as can't. Never give up. Even if you can't do it this way, try again, try a different way, talk to somebody else, connect, challenge, be curious, but never give up, and there is no such word as can't.
I like that. And I wonder perhaps if that was why you also in your spare time were a Territorial Army officer in the Royal Artillery. What if you were to add one more tip from your time? One more tip from your time in the army. What would your tip be from there?
Keep curious.
Keep curious. Say a bit more.
Yeah, keep curious. I was a musician. I was a clarinetist. I went to an all-girls boarding school. Yes, I was brought up in a military family, but I had absolutely no inclination to go into the armed forces. But music wasn't enough to keep me occupied at Durham University. There wasn't enough orchestra rehearsals, choir rehearsals, and that energy needed to get out there. So I was curious, and I just thought, you know what? Where else am I going to learn how to parachute, how to fire a gun, how to be a leader, how to drive as a student?
Well,
it was
brilliant.
So compelling.
Well, Tracey, thank you. Fantastic having you on the series.
Thank you very much.
And good luck with intelligence ethics and all the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.